My grandma would actually call these knedelas. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. I haven't heard her say it in so long. So it was either matzo balls, knedelas, matzo ball soup, no whatever what you call it, Jewish penicillin. It all goes down the same. It's so delicious. Hi friends, and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Courtney if you're new, and today we're going to be making one of my childhood favorite soups, matzo ball soup. Let's get started.
First, you're going to want to figure out if you want floaters or sinkers. Yes, there's floater matzo balls, which are light and fluffy, and there's sinkers, which are you have to cut it with a fork and a knife. I go for an in-between, so I like to make 2 cups of matzo meal for sinkers and then 1 cup for floaters, and I go in between, so I go for 1 1/3, sometimes 1 1/2. I'll use 4 to 5 sheets of matzah to make my matzo meal in my blender. So what I did is I have the 4 sheets right there, and it's like a heaping cup. And then I'm going to do 1 more sheet, which equals almost 1/3, 1/4 cup. Each sheet should be about 1/4 cup, but it's going to vary. So that's why I always measure just to make sure and see where I am. Then we're going to take some original seltzer. So original matzah, original seltzer, no flavorings here at all. Then we're going to pour that in, and then we'll mix it in once we have all of our ingredients. Again, original seltzer. Don't use lemon lime or any of those flavors. Although they are good for drinking, I would not put them in your matzo balls. Next, we're going to add in a little bit of fat. You could use schmaltz, but I'm not using fat like that. I'm just going to use some avocado oil. You could use vegetable oil, whichever you prefer. Now we're going to go in with our seasonings. I'm using 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of dried parsley. You could also use fresh. I would use like a 1/2 tablespoon, maybe even a tablespoon for fresh. And then 1/4 teaspoon of granulated onion. Since we're not using the chicken schmaltz, which is the chicken fat, I am going to be using a 1/2 tablespoon of some chicken bouillon. I use the Better Than bouillon, and I feel like it gives it some nice flavor that we're missing from the schmaltz. Next up is the eggs. I like to crack them into a separate bowl so they're easier to whisk together and really kind of scramble them. So once they're nice and mixed up and broken apart like this, I will add them to that matzah mixture. And then we're just going to really mix everything together. Now you could prepare this in advance. My mom used to make it hours before, but I typically like to make it 1 hour prior because I'm already in the mode of cooking. And then once this is setting in the fridge, I will get all the other things that I need to get. I will take all the fat off my chicken. I will prep my vegetables and then basically get the soup started. And that usually takes me about 15 to 20 minutes. So after I'm making this, I'll actually be able to clean the dishes or do something else while this is preparing. So I always like to do it in dinner time, but my mom would just do it in the morning and have everything ready to go and then prepare it. It really depends on what you prefer. Once we're all mixed up, we're going to put this in the refrigerator and let it set for 1 hour. Now we're going to get started on our soup. I like to use 2 chicken thighs, although you could use more. I just find that I don't like a ton of chicken in my matzo ball soup. Some people do not even add chicken to their matzo ball soup, so it's personal preference. So I'm just using 2 thighs. I used to use 1 whole chicken breast, and I just find that thighs retain so much moisture, and it's just a better all soup with the chicken thighs. I get more flavor as well. Now I'm going to be doing my vegetables. I'm using some celery, some carrots, and then I'm also going to be using an onion. Now for the onion, you can use a yellow onion or a white onion. I just always go with yellow onions. I have them in my house all the time. While I was prepping my vegetables, I did flip my chicken so this way I can cook evenly on both sides. I will say I love parsnips, and I usually added them to my matzo ball soup. My whole family does. They're just so good. They're so flavorful. But again, they are super flavorful. I find that they are really sweet. It'll like overpower the soup at times. And my family doesn't love that flavor. And that's okay. So I just leave it out. But if you wanted to try it with parsnips, I highly recommend at least trying it once. They add a lot of flavor, and I think they're super delicious. Now we're going to add our vegetables to our Dutch oven with our chicken. I'm going to actually cut the chicken towards the end, and that will cook in with the soup. So all that flavor is going to kind of get in the soup, which is nice because we got that browning going on, which adds more flavor to our soup. Now I'm going to kind of let that sweat before mixing, and then I'm going to mix it up, scrape up any bits of chicken that are on the bottom because sometimes it does stick, and I'll get all of that into the soup now we're going to add in our broth. You can use your own homemade broth, but I find that I prefer when I use like chicken bouillon. So that's what I grew up on. My family always used it. So I'm again going in with the better than bouillon. I used a total of 2 tablespoons because you use 1 tablespoon for each 4 cups. Then we're going to cover this and let it cook. I'm letting that chicken finish cooking. I'm letting the vegetables get tender. And by the time it's all done, I will be able to make my matzo balls. Now our soup's ready for the matzo balls. You could see it's boiling. I'm going to take out the chicken, but apparently I kind of forgot right here and I started making my matzo balls. And then I remember as I see that chicken piece on the top, oh my gosh, I got to take it out. So remember to take out your chicken and you're going to shred that, chop it up. I really debated if I should just put the matzo ball in there because I already had the gloves on and was ready. I got the chicken out and then we got to making matzo balls. The matzo ball mixture is super gooey and kind of sticks to your hands. So when I was a kid, I would put some vegetable oil on my hands because yes, I helped my mama cook. And I would put the vegetable oil or whatever oil she used on my hands and roll the matzo ball in my hands. Now I'm older and I prefer not to get this all over and in my nails and everything. I prefer using a pair of gloves. Again, you could put a little bit of oil on the gloves, but I just find it's not necessary. So the gloves do a great job. It doesn't stick to my hands. Now, when you're making your matzo balls, you can make them as big or as small as you like. Now, when I say as big, I'm saying like maybe a cookie scoop size. You don't want to go too big because if you go too big, they're going to take a lot longer to cook. Yes, I know there's like a bunch of restaurants that make these big matzo balls that look like they're like the size of 2 cups. I don't recommend doing that. I just don't know how to cook them properly. Maybe one day I'll make a giant matzo ball, but for now I like making regular size matzo balls. My son even likes smaller matzo balls. I'm tossing the chicken that I shredded back into the soup. Now, if you made floater matzo balls, you're not going to want to tap it down like that because they're going to fall apart. You want to be super careful with those things. We're going to put a lid on and cook it for 30 minutes. Some people cook it for 40 minutes, but again, I'm not making giant matzo balls. Now I'm going to take off the lid about 20-ish minutes in or 15 minutes in, and then I'm going to just kind of rotate those matzo balls. I want to make sure they're cooking nicely on both sides. I know my Dutch oven does a great job of like sweating and dripping down water, but I always want to make sure that I'm actually turning them and making sure they cook on both sides. So again, I like to do this 15 to 20 minutes in, and I'm going to add in some parsley as well. And usually I'd add some dill, but they didn't have any organic dill, so we did skip that. But I love parsley, dill, and parsnips in my soup. We're going to push that down. If you had floaters, you're going to be super careful, maybe not push that down, just put it on top. And then when it's done, you can go ahead and enjoy. I love to eat this, and it's a full meal for my family. You could serve it with a salad, but we really do get full on this soup. It is so comforting and so filling. I love to do maybe 3 to 4 matzo balls per person, and it's really going to depend on how much you need. My son can eat 3 matzo balls, and I'm just ladling in some chicken, and this is ready to serve. There are no noodles or no pasta. We just never have done that. I know some people like to, so it's personal preference.
Our matzo ball soup is done and ready to enjoy. Living in an Italian and Jewish household, I always had Jewish penicillin and Italian penicillin. That was either chicken pastina soup or we had matzo ball soup. So I'm gonna cut my matzo ball. I always like sinkers. Do you like sinkers or floaters? When I say I like sinkers, they usually fall to the bottom of the pot, or you have to cut it with a knife and a fork, or you just have to apply a lot of pressure. So that is the inside of a sinker. Yes, I like sinker matzo balls. If you liked floater matzo balls, they kind of are fluffy, they fall apart, they're kind of airy, and I usually consider those like boxed. That's why I don't really like the fluffy ones, because I find like they just remind me of boxed. So I'm gonna go in for a bite. Can't wait. It's so good. It's so flavorful, and it's just pure comfort food. Like, this is my childhood comfort. If I didn't feel good, I always wanted a bowl of matzo ball soup. Love to add parsnips. I also love to add dill. I didn't have dill, so I added just some parsley today, and it's so good. It's delicious. It's really comforting. I hope you guys give this a try. I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of this with my family, and I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye, friends.